Good evening. I had to stop and think of what day it was. This is Kelly from Kelly's Coffee and Crime Chat. I am a little late with this week's episode, as I so apologize. I've been working nights, sleeping in the daytime. Excuse me. I haven't had much time off. I've been so tired. And I'm sleeping a lot, I think is why I'm tired, is because I'm sleeping a lot. Soaking my feet, doing all that, and I just haven't had time to get on here. So, man, we are almost to the last week of February. And I am drinking Java Mama Big Net, which I've never had one of those. It's from Mardi Gras. Our Mardi Gras collection is up. There's also Bananas Foster and the praline cake. But this coffee is my favorite in the collection. I've had it many times. I have never had one of these, but oh my gosh, I've got to have one. It's like a fluffy vanilla donut. And they look so good, and the coffee is wonderful. Yummy. So that is what I'm drinking tonight. Just got up not too long ago. But I have a story for you guys. Now, this takes place in Texas. I don't know if Texas is considered the Midwest. I kind of think it is a little bit. So Texas, I kind of mix up between, sometimes I have episodes on this podcast, and then there's others I have on the my Patreon and Spotify Premium for my subscribers, which I'm hoping to get another episode for them out soon. But my sources for this is about Cameron Todd Willingham. My sources are the MarshallProject.org, Wikipedia.org, InnocenceProject.org, Refinery28.com, and the movie Trial by Fire, which is awesome. Very good movie. It's been out for a little while. I just have never seen it. And Netflix just picked it up. So that's highly recommended. So we call him Todd, but his name is Cameron Todd Willingham. But Todd was born January 9th of 1968. The morning of December 23rd, right before Christmas, of 1991 in Corsicana, Texas. That's 55 miles south of Dallas. Stacy Willingham went to buy Christmas presents for her family. And they had 3 daughters, Amber, age 2, and they had twins, Carmen and Cameron, who were a year old. Well, when she was gone, a fire broke out in their home. The girls were there along with Todd, who crawled out of his bedroom to go into the girls' room. He saw an orange glow on the ceiling. He got up to step over the childproof gate, and his hair caught on fire. He felt around for the girls, but couldn't find them from the smoke. Debris fell from the ceiling, and he stumbled out the front door. He went to the back. This is a small home. I will post a photo in my Instagram and Facebook and Patreon. He went to go back in, but the heat was so bad, he called for neighbors to call 911 and said that his babies were in the house. He tried to get in a window by breaking it with a pull cue, and that's when the fire exploded. All 3 girls died of smoke inhalation. Now, according to one person, as the fire was in full blaze, Todd moved his car away from the fire. He did this so that the car would not explode and worsen the fire. But then later he was, that was part of the investigation as why he would move his car instead of going to save his girls. But he went back to the house days later to recover some personal stuff. And he complained that his dartboard was missing. A fundraiser was held at a local bar for the family, and he mentioned that money was not a problem now and planned to order a replacement dart set. It was basically a week after the fire. Now, all this is evidence, what I'm saying here, because they hold all of this against him. It was just barely a week after the fire when it was determined that arson was involved, with a liquid accelerant being the cause, basically lighter fluid. Now, this was from patterns found in the floor in shape of puddles, and the fire had burned fast and hot, plus a charring under the aluminum front door jamb that tested positive for such an accelerant in the area of the front door. Stacy denied any trouble the night before with Todd, like they never had fights, they never got into it, no disagreements, nothing. He ended up with singed hair on his chest, eyelids, and head, and a 2-inch burn on his right shoulder. His wrists and hands were blackened with smoke. The night before Todd's birthday, like I said, he was born on January 9th. So the night before was January 8th, and he was arrested by a SWAT team. He was indicted on charges of murder on February 13th, 1992. So the DA said that he could have saved them if he cared about them like he did drinking beer and playing darts. Todd did not have a job, and it was reported that he abused Stacy even though she hit him back. So they both really put bruises on each other. And she also had other men that he found out about, and this would just floor him. And he listened to heavy metal music and had a mullet. Well, that means he's guilty. I mean, that was also me in the 80s. So after the girl's funeral, he was out drinking and having a good time. People came to the conclusion that he didn't want his children anymore, so he started the fire to get rid of them. People talked and rumors were flying as to how this could have happened. Sorry, I got to get a drink of coffee. But you know how people will start talking, and then one rumor turns into another, and then something turns into another, and then it just gets this real big, I don't know, a misinterpretation about everything just because of rumors. Okay, Johnny Webb. He was an inmate who was in for robbing a woman at knife point and had a long rap sheet. He testified that Todd told him that he set the fire to cover up injuries and death of one of his daughters, which was Amber, the oldest one, which was caused by Stacy. But none of the girls were found to have any physical injuries that were distinguishable in the effects after the effects of the fire. So Webb had been prescribed many medications during this time for bipolar disorder. He did not have an explanation for the injuries not being found on Amber's forehead and arm, which he said the locations for her injuries were from the abuse. He said that Todd burned her with a piece of wadded up paper twice to make people think she was playing with fire. Webb got an early release from prison for his testimony. It was also told in the trial that Todd was violently abusing his wife while pregnant so she'd have an abortion. Stacy denied this during her testimony. It was untrue, and things were brought up in the trial that were assumed by so many people. He had a past criminal record for stealing, and being jobless meant that he had to be guilty. He didn't have a job. He was always fighting. He was always listening to heavy metal. This kind of reminds me of the West Memphis 3, because that's what they were saying about them. Even his past probation officer said she could not imagine him ever harming his children. She never saw any sociopathic or bizarre behavior with him. A prosecutor pointed out that Todd's tattoo of a skull and serpent meant that he was a psychopath. One medical expert had confirmed this. This person had no published research of sociopathic behavior, but he held a master's degree in marriage and family issues. He said that Todd's Iron Maiden poster of a fist punching through a skull meant violence and death. Also, his Led Zeppelin poster showed a fallen angel. And the expert who recommended the death penalty was known as Dr. Death, quote unquote, Dr. Death. And he ended up being expelled years later from the Texas Society of Psychiatric Physicians and the American Psychiatric Association for Unethical Conduct. Todd Willingham pled not guilty as he was not going to admit something he did not do. This brought on the sentence of death. He maintained his innocence for years. Now, there was a woman, Elizabeth Gilbert, who was a playwright, but she's not the author of Eat, Pray, Love. I guess that author of that book has the same name. And Elizabeth got involved in the case and fought for his innocence. Her story became an article in the New Yorker that inspired the movie Trial by Fire. She contacted Johnny Webb, the inmate who is now free, and said that Todd confessed to him. He would not tell her anything, but later said he was taken to the courthouse into Judge John H. Jackson's office. The judge laid out photos of the girls' bodies and said, "This could be your child. This dude is guilty." Then he told Johnny, if you help me," this is Johnny Webb, "if you help me, that robbery will disappear. Even if you're convicted now, I can get you off later." He further told him, "I want you to just say he put fires in the corners. I need you to be able to say that so we can convict him. Otherwise, we're going to have a murderer running around on our streets." Johnny told the judge he wanted to be an underwater welder and turn his life around. Judge Jackson told him that could be arranged. Johnny did not believe Todd was guilty of the crime after talking with the judge. He said they were willing to do anything to get him to testify. They are allowed to offer more lenient. Now, actually, people like judge who are lawyers, they're allowed to offer more leniency for witnesses, but the facts have to be true. So they're making stuff up and telling him to say this. That's what they're doing. In 2004, a fire investigator named Gerald Hurst examined the evidence the evidence that the fire marshal Manuel Vasquez had found. So Manuel Vasquez was the initial fire marshal that examined the evidence when Todd was convicted. Hurst discredited all of it, using experiments like the fire that had occurred in the Lime Street fire in Florida. Now, in that case, it was proven that accelerant wasn't necessary to create pour patterns, which had and it was an outdated sign of arson, of arson, to have it look like puddles, like I said in the beginning. So in that case, the accelerant, lighter fluid, was not necessary to create that. Also, flashover was in question. Now, flashover is the near simultaneous ignition of most of the directly exposed combustible material in an enclosed area. So here's an example. The ignition of a piece of furniture in ignition, to ignite something, I guess. It sounds funny the way I'm saying it, because when I see the word ignition, I think of a car. But when you ignite a piece of furniture in a room, the fire can produce a layer of hot smoke, which spreads across the ceiling in the room. The hot smoke layer grows in depth as it is bounded by the walls of the room. The radiated heat from this layer heats the surfaces of the directly exposed combustible materials in the room, causing them to give off flammable gases. When the temperatures of these gases get high enough, the gases will ignite throughout their extent. That's flashover. So the testing for the accelerant they said was used to ignite the house fire was a chemical testing. There was a bottle of accelerant used for the grill located on the front porch. So there was lighter fluid right there on the front porch. This was confirmed by lab tests and a photo taken of the house before the fire. Hurst speculated that the water sprayed by the firefighters spread the lighter fluid from the melted container. Hurst rebutted 20 indications from Vasquez of an accelerant used and concluded that there were no signs of arson. Other fire investigators also claimed this. He claimed that the whole case was based on the purest form of junk science. He sent a report to the governor's office, and the governor was Rick Perry, and also to the Board of Pardons and Paroles, with Todd's appeal for clemency. but neither of them responded. They had tunnel vision, and they already decided that Todd Willingham was guilty, and he was executed on February 17th, 2004. Now, August of 2009, the Chicago Tribune published an investigative article saying that over the past 5 years, the Willingham case has been reviewed by 9 of the nation's top fire scientists, concluded that the original investigators relied on outdated theories and folklore to justify the determination of arson. This guy was executed without, when they had more to do. Now, this is the thing. I don't mind the death penalty. I'm just putting my 2 cents in here. I understand the death penalty, and I do think it's okay, but only if you're positively sure that this guy did it. And I don't mean tunnel vision. I don't mean like there's more to do. There was more to do here in this case. And it's so sad that this happened because there was more to uncover. I mean, they tried when they sent the letter to the probation office, they didn't even look at it from what I gather. I don't even think they even opened it. They're just, nope, denied. Parole denied, or pardon denied, whatever. And because because right when they saw the name, it's like, he's guilty, without looking at the evidence. Johnny Webb, the inmate that testified, recanted his testimony twice that Todd confessed to him. His wife, Stacy, now her name is, I cannot pronounce this, Kuykendall, Kuykendall. She divorced Todd when he was in prison, and she goes back and forth saying Todd was innocent, and then that he was guilty, and he confessed to her that he started the fire right before he was executed. Or no, he started, I'm trying to remember. She keeps saying that he confessed to her at different times. First it was one time, then it was before he was not executed. It was some other time. It may have been before he was executed, and that he confessed to her, and then she'll go back earlier and said, no, she didn't. And she also cashed in on a life insurance policy that her father took out on the girls before the fire. Now, this was according to trial by fire, that she did come into some money for their deaths. So now she's saying, well, yeah, he did it, and that's how she was able to get this somehow. I don't know, because it wasn't an accident that he really did this. And I don't know if there was like a wrongful death suit. I did not find anything about that. But there could have been, since they already think he's guilty. In 2010, the Innocence Project filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas for seeking a judgment of official oppression. The abuse of power by a public official, such as a police officer, judge, or prison guard. So that was the lawsuit. On March 3rd of 2015, the Texas State Bar filed a disciplinary action against Judge Jackson for failing to disclose information on his deal with Johnny Webb. A jury rejected the claim that Judge Jackson hid evidence, finding in favor of Judge Jackson. The death penalty is still legal in Texas, but the number of executions has been decreasing. They found in favor of that judge, even though what he said to Johnny Webb, even though Johnny Webb recanted his testimony twice, there's too much evidence here, there's too much doubt in this case to execute him. This has me just so upset. And I had to talk about it. And I had to put it on the actual podcast because I want everybody to hear about this case. So Netflix just dropped that movie, and the movie is pretty well, goes by testimony, and is very much a lot of facts in this movie for this case, and I highly recommend watching it. Laura Dern is the only actress that I can remember who was known in it, and she plays Elizabeth Gilbert, who fights for his innocence. He should have at least gotten a fair trial, which he didn't get. And that's what they taught. That's what she says in the movie. He didn't get a fair trial. Whether or not you think he's guilty, he did not get a fair trial. I don't think he was guilty. I mean, he crawled to the girls' bedrooms. And Gerald Hurst mentioned that they did not even check the space heater that was in the girls' room. The girls' room, there was a space heater there. And the wiring of the house was not good. They didn't even check that. Because that's the area where the fire started. So why didn't they check that part? This is a very, very interesting case. And I mean, I'm glad that things have gotten better now as far as evidence and finding people guilty. Like I said, I still think the death penalty is okay and should be legal. I just don't think it should be legal for someone like Cameron Todd Willingham, because they had more evidence. And back then, they just rushed the death penalty. I mean, I couldn't believe how fast he was put to death from when he went to trial, because usually there's more time. And he maintained his innocence ever since he was executed. You can't believe anything his wife says, Stacy, because she keeps going back and forth. And seriously, if she would have just stuck right at the beginning with, yes, he did it, and he told me, I could see it, but she kept going back and forth. First it was he would never do it. He would never do that. And then she said he confessed. And then she was kind of going back and forth even after that. I mean, it was weird. You don't know. I don't know what, I can't believe somebody who goes back and forth and keeps changing their story. But he's stuck with the same story from the very beginning. So that's the story of Cameron Todd Willingham. Very sad. I'm sorry if I went through that a little quick. It just gets me, and I really get into these cases like this. Plus, my mouth's dry, and I just woke up, and I'm like, this case just gets me. But I've been wanting to do this. I've just been working, sleeping, having appointments, and I just haven't been able to do the recording of this. So anyway, this will be up right away after I get done. I'm going to upload it. And I am going to upload it to Patreon, so whoever has that app can just listen to it in that app too. So I just finished the 3-episode documentary last night on Gabby Petito on Netflix. So yes, I've been watching things too. But it was real late last night, and I was tired I'm like, I'm going to watch this. So I watched it, and it is very sad, and there's a lot of different things in there that I did not know. Because at first I'm like, oh, we know this case. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's more in here. So now it's more understandable as to what was going on, even though the answers aren't completely there because he committed suicide. But there's more that I can, that I know about now. So that's even highly recommended to watch that. So that one, and they do talk about how there's many other missing people that are never looked into, which is BS. And I think that needs to be changed. So there's a lot. It's really good. And so that right now, I think it's called American Murder, I think. So that's going on. I watched the movie Long Legs. It was oh my gosh, that is so freaky. It was good, but it's one I got to watch again. I just a few weeks ago, I did the story of Giselle Peridot on Patreon and Spotify Premium. That is so sad and angry. I would be so angry. That is a really good one. So my Patreon is $5. You could pay $5 and listen to all of the episodes I have on there. I started the Patreon and Spotify Premium a year and a half ago. So there's a lot of episodes on there that you can listen to. And as always, no ads. I don't have ads on the regular podcast, and I don't, of course, don't have ads on Patreon. But there's a lot on there, and that story just really gets to me. Really gets to me, and it's a recent one. So I think that was all I had. So everybody have a wonderful rest of February. March is coming. Hopefully the weather will start getting better. We've been like -1 degree, but now it's going up to like 18 degrees and it feels like summer. So so I hope everybody's staying warm. March is just around the corner. I can't wait for March, April, and of course May. And maybe by then I'll have more time to do my podcasting, and I'll have way more time, hopefully. So everybody, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I leave everything in the show notes how to get a hold of me. So please let me know if you have any suggestions at all. And as always, I will see you next time.